Taurus, selections from the book by Ciro Discepolo, Blue Diamond Publisher, Milan 2000. The zodiac sign of Taurus is an earth sign, fixed because it steadily accompanies a season, feminine, negative in a psychological sense, and governed by Venus. Average period April 21st to May 20th. General characteristics. The sign of Taurus is the second zodiac sign and concerns the degrees ranging from 31 to 60. It symbolizes energy that stabilizes after the initial explosion, everything that occurs after a first expression of dynamic energy, that which follows the melting of the glaciers. As the great André Barbeau says, it is characterized by the abundance of forms. The second part of spring is indeed that of lush vegetation, soft meadows, green pastures, general flora, the evaporation of plant essences, and the appearance of the first fruits. Analogous to the bovine image, the new rhythm is slow and stable due to the weight, thickness, and density of matter, but this incarnation is rich, assimilated to the Mother Earth, to Mother Nature, fertile par excellence. We find ourselves in the presence of the most feminine sign and the image of the cow, the hyper-female animal. To properly understand this zodiacal 12th, we must follow the trail of that which follows the beginning. In the infant, the first months of life following their birth are characterized by the so-called oral stage, in which the little one notices the objects surrounding them and seeks to possess them in the only way they know, by bringing them to their mouth. This, of course, applies to all 12 signs, but for Taurus children it takes on an added significance as they do not successfully move past this phase. As they transition to the next stage, the verbal one, they carry with them an unresolved portion of orality. This in turn is responsible for both pathologies such as tonsillitis, vocal cord diseases, and thyroid problems, and great passions, for example, for singing and music. Furthermore, we often see male homosexuality, which indeed rests upon orality, or forms of a poor relationship with food, such as alternating phases of bulimia or anorexia. We may also see forms of greed and avarice, which mask the subject's substantial orality. Following the concept of that which follows the beginning, we must note that Taurus is a secondary type, compared to the primarity of Aries. Aries, in fact, acts first and thinks later. Taurus instead is led to ruminate on matters concerning them, and requires a very long elaboration of ideas before making a decision. Like the bovine that represents them, the Taurus individual is generally very slow in their decisions. They are a born ruminant. They possess two fundamental characteristics: the strength of a steamroller, very slow but capable of overcoming any obstacle, and an equally inexorable stubbornness. Try moving a bovine that refuses to budge even a single centimeter. You would be wasting your time. The stubbornness of Taurus is proverbial and means that it is perfectly useless to throw yourself into heated discussions with one of its representatives, because if they are convinced of something, you will never, ever, even with 1,000 proofs in your hands, succeed in making them change their mind. Given their slowness as well as their stubbornness, they have a very poor transference with the environment. This does not mean at all that it is impossible to establish friendly relationships with them, as they prove to be excellent company, but simply that it is quite complicated to create a transfer with them. As with almost all signs, we distinguish between two different types of Taurus: the hot dominant type and the cold dominant type, according to André Barbeau, also called the self-indulgent Taurus or the self-repressed Taurus by Charles Harvey. The hot dominant Taurus occurs when the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Uranus values shine in the chart, and when signs like Aries and Leo stand out. This type is more in tune with the sign's ruler, Venus, which in this case is the Venus genetrix of mythology as opposed to the Venus Aphrodite of Libra, who is more ethereal, less sensual, and less earthly. The hot dominant Taurus has characteristics of activity, emotionality, exaggeration, lack of restraint, a changeable destiny, and a great attraction to social life, sex, good food, money, splendor, and luxury. The cold dominant Taurus, on the other hand, is one who possesses strong lunar or Saturnian values in their horoscope, or who has prominent signs belonging to Capricorn, Scorpio, etc. Their characteristics are slowness, passivity, inactivity, a tendency toward a quiet family life, conservation, and avarice. The two models can sometimes coexist and find a sort of life balance, as in the case of Honoré de Balzac, who led a very disordered life but dreamed of peace in the countryside, who spent a great deal but cared deeply about money. Common to both types is a love for nature, especially for the countryside. Today, many born under this sign or with the sun in the natal second house turn toward agritourism for good food, for wooden furniture. Sometimes Tauruses have the hobby of building it themselves, and for fragrances in general. They are excellent company, and the late great French astrologer Bastide recommended that anyone having the misfortune of ending up in prison should find a Taurus cellmate, as they would make the stay less harsh. The physical type, we can have two fundamental types depending on whether bulimic or anorexic tendencies prevail, either a plump, chubby type in the style of Senta-Berge, Jean Gabin, or Orson Welles, or another who is very thin, almost skeletal-like, Audrey Hepburn, Indro Montanelli, or Fred Astaire. When you see a very thin subject, frighteningly thin, first suspect that they are a Taurus or have the sun in the second house, which is co-signifier of this sign. The throat is a part of the body that can guide you, either very narrow, non-existent, or on the contrary powerful like that of a bovine. Usually we find ourselves in the presence of good-looking people, given the Venus dominance, with plenty of hair and smooth velvety skin. Another detail that may strike you considerably is skin transpiration, always special and extraordinary in these 30 zodiacal degrees. You will either find yourself before an animal with a characteristic odor that exerts a very strong attraction on you, or conversely you may encounter Tauruses with strong skin transpiration problems, with a distinct bad odor coming from their skin, forcing them to use intense perfumes and deodorants to cover it. Work Taurus is a hard worker, capable of grinding through great amounts of labor, but never ask them to be fast. Being strongly attracted to money, their work will often be in close contact with it. They may be a banker, a bank teller, a cashier, a paymaster in the army, a mint printer, and so on. Many other times they will deal with money indirectly as a financial consultant, jeweler, goldsmith, stockbroker, or similar. As they love good food, we often find them in the hotel and catering fields as chefs, waiters, innkeepers, etc. As they love nature and the countryside, they also join the ranks of farmers, foresters, agritourism operators, livestock breeders, and so on. In relation to the ruling Venus, they could be a skilled artisan, a hairdresser, barber, or cabinet maker, but also an actor, screenwriter, singer, musician, director, or photography technician. Taurus and the second house are very much linked to the image. Usually they latch onto a job and do not leave it easily. It must be noted, however, that they are not prone to frequently renewing their work, and above all, are quite insensitive to technological innovations that could improve it. As mentioned before, they are great ruminators, and indeed we find several philosophers among their ranks. The need for financial security in old age drives them to work very hard to secure excellent reserves. The Taurus child few know, even among astrologers, that despite the apparent great security and tranquility of this sign, very often among cold, dominant, or self-repressed Tauruses, subjects develop who are very restless from a psychological point of view, subjects who are highly prone to depression. For this reason, it is necessary to carefully observe Taurus children to understand if they belong to this category and take corrective measures in time. They must be taught to associate with mentally healthy people, not to watch distressing shows and not to read books or watch films that induce depression. Above all, one must try to have them live outdoors, play sports and go camping. Contact with animals is excellent. These children require a special education regarding nutrition. If not corrected in time, they will take definite bulimic or anorexic directions. Above all, it is necessary to teach them not to feed on animal fats and everything that can be harmful in a diet. It will be wise to have them eat food seasoned with iodized salt. Love, this is certainly an important topic for this zodiacal 12th, especially for the self-indulgent type who, whether male or female, will need a considerable amount of sex to remain in good health. Taurus is a sensual sign, but also very possessive in relationships. Thus they can be, on the one hand, the ideal lover, and on the other an obstinate and petulant person who besets us with their doubts. And in securities, they are sensual in the most animalistic, naive sense possible. They love peace and tranquility, so if they are comfortable with a partner, they rarely look for another. In their sexuality, orality will be of great importance. Their destiny signs are Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo. There is an extraordinary relationship, especially with Scorpio. Try this experiment. Organize a party at your house and arrange for only one Taurus and one Scorpio to come. You will see that after a few minutes they will recognize each other in the sense that they will feel their mutual attraction and begin talking to each other, almost certainly moving on to more intimate relations. Taurus, both male and female, is very prolific, and they must keep this in mind if they have unprotected sexual relations. Health, as already stated, the part of the body most related to the sign of Taurus is the throat. Almost all Taurus children suffer from tonsillitis, and many of them undergo tonsillectomy or the removal of adenoids before the age of 20. The throat is and will always be the site of minor and major pathologies, from the tonsils to the vocal cords and the thyroid. For this reason, subjects of the sign should strictly avoid smoking throughout their lives. Then there are the pathologies already described relating to the forms of bulimia and anorexia that Taurus may encounter. These can be tendencies, but they can also take the form of actual major pathologies, with all the resulting consequences. Finally, there are psychological problems. Many Tauruses, contrary to what is claimed by a certain parlor astrology, practiced by those ignorant of the subject, are not mentally healthy at all, and face states of deep depression and anguish, sometimes persistent crises from which they struggle to pull themselves out. In the most serious cases, following great sorrows, we could even see the onset of psychotic situations. from the book Toro by Ciro Discepolo, Blue Diamond Publisher, Milano 2128, pagine